Until yesterday, I had no idea what I was going to do for this video today. I didn't have any patterns in mind. I wasn't motivated to sew anything. I've been kind of struggling a little emotionally, and so I was just kind of like, I might just skip this one. And then I saw a bag that K.dill made, who is the owner of K.dill Handmade. And I thought that even though that pattern is a very easy pattern and you may not learn a lot of sewing techniques from this video, I thought it's a way for us to remember that creating in the sewing room has to be heart involved. We have to feel it emotionally, and we have to be able to connect with the fabrics and the prints to get excited. So even if you don't learn a lot from this video, I hope you get inspired. I hope that this video helps you feel not alone if sometimes you feel unmotivated to sew, or sometimes you are emotionally struggling and not feeling up to sewing, or you have mental health issues, that we all have them, and this is the way that I work through those. Sewing is my therapy, it's my happy place, and so if I can find something that motivates me, I can always find my way back to the sewing room to create and to just bring myself joy and peace. So Kathy created the color block wristlet. I actually have a tutorial for it on my channel already. I made that one with jelly and clear vinyl. I'll link it in the description. But she showed this one the other day in her Facebook group, and she made the color block wristlet with a panel. She did have to increase the size. I increased mine even more than she did, so this won't be considered a wristlet. There's no way you'd want to carry this on your wrist. But what happened with me is when I saw the panel that she used, I was like, wait a minute, I just bought a bunch of panels that I love, that I thought were so beautiful, didn't really know what to do with them, and I thought this is the perfect thing to bring me joy and to get me excited about sewing. I bought this panel from Jen's Fabrics. And just so you know, whenever I talk about where I buy a fabric from, I'm never trying to encourage you to buy. I'm just sharing my resources. On Panel Blitz Day, Jen's Fabric gives you 50% off any panel, any base. So this panel, it's a cotton canvas, it's a bag panel. It is originally at $6, but on Panel Blitz Day, it's only $3. I'm going to show you the other ones I bought from that collection, just so you can see all the gorgeous prints. This is her stained glass collection, and I just fell in love with it, so I bought all these panels on Panel Blitz Day. So I got each one for $3. So here is this one, and this one. And I wanted to pair this panel with something gorgeous, so I chose this Minky. Minky is a little difficult to sew with, I'm not gonna lie. It's even more difficult to cut. It just gets Minky everywhere. Not gonna lie on that either. But I thought it was gorgeous, and I thought this is gonna make me a gorgeous bag. On the back of this pouch, I could even use another panel, another piece of Minky, but I'm not going to. I'm just gonna use one full piece of Minky on the back. So these are the pieces I'll need for the front. One piece of Minky will be for the back, and then I'm going to use 2 pieces of lining, zipper tape, zipper pull, and a zipper tab. That's all I'm using for this pattern. Right now, the only interfacing I have on my pieces is on my cotton canvas. I did add a layer of medium weight interfacing. That's like your SF101 equivalent. After I sew these 2 pieces together, I may decide to add more interfacing. I'm just not for sure. Since it's for me, it's really easy to just kind of feel it and be like, okay, that's enough, or no, I want more on there. So I'll decide that after I get these pieces sewn together. Another difference that I'm doing from the original pattern is just like Kathy did. She didn't box her corners on the version she used with her panel. I'm not going to either. I'm going to leave my corners rounded and then do it that way. The thing you got to understand when you sew with Minky is it's very slippery, so it's a little tricky to sew, but also where this one is so furry, I have to be careful with top stitching. So when you're working with Minky, in my opinion, simple is best. So I won't be doing a lot of top stitching on my Minky, and I won't be adding any binding or piping or anything like that. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just take these 2 pieces, place them right sides together, and then I'm just going to sew along this edge. So I'm going to flip this over, because where we see this fur sticking out, we want to make for sure that we're truly matching up these sides, because the fur will be confusing and we'll be like, wait, am I sewing with the right seam allowance and I'm catching everything the right way, so that you can see where it lines up, and you can also make sure you do the proper seam allowance. This Minky, by the way, is from So Girly Fun. I bought it years ago. I don't know if she still carries it or not. Also, as a side note, you can interface Minky if you wanted to, if you felt like you wanted to add foam or fleece, SF101, whatever. I use my heat press and I press it down flat. It gives me no problems at all. I'm just straightening out here and looking. I've got to decide if I'm going to top stitch on this seam. I think I'm going to top stitch on this side only. When you top stitch on the minky, you can just really see that line kind of clearly, and I don't feel like it's necessary, but I do want to tack the seam down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this seam going under this panel, and then I'm just going to top stitch down that side. Now, if that bothers you, like, hey, I don't like to top stitch down one side and not the other, you can top stitch down both sides on yours. If you use minky, and definitely if you don't use minky, you could butterfly the seam and do it. Or you could just not top stitch at all. Maybe just use a glue stick to kind of press that seam flat under one of the pieces, just to get it to lay flat. That way, iron it down. But I'm going to top stitch. I'm just doing 1/8 of an inch, just going slow, making sure that seam stays under the back panel, keeping the minky fur out of the way. And as I'm filling this, I'm back and forth. I feel like it definitely could use a little more stabilizer. It feels very soft. But I also don't know if I want to do that or not. So you can see how that top stitching looks. And that helps it lay a lot flatter, I think. I think I am going to go ahead and add maybe some fleece to this. Not so much foam. I don't want it too fluffy, but it is a bigger bag. I do want it to have just a little bit more structure. So now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'll take this off camera, cut another piece of minky out the full size of this. Then I'm going to add a layer of fleece to this piece, then to the back piece. Now for my lining pieces, I'm just using a cotton canvas. I'm not adding anything to these pieces. I feel like the cotton canvas is sturdy enough. This print I think is from Oh So Lovely. I've had it for years and I thought it just matched perfectly with this style. So this will be the inside. My bag's so big, I could do anything. I could add slip pockets, zipper pockets, but I'm not going to. I'm keeping it very simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the fleece only to the front and back pieces. Before I go do that, let's go ahead and work on this zipper just a little bit. On one side of the zipper, I did turn down the ends 90 degrees. I haven't figured out my exact cut because I definitely want to keep this zipper out of the seam allowance. And since I wasn't for sure on my measurements, I hadn't cut it yet. So this is way too long, and so I'm going to cut it about here. I usually like to have at least maybe a 1/2 of an inch. I think I'm going to go a little bit more this time so I have plenty of clearance. And then I already have my zipper pull on, so all I have to do is add the zipper tab. So now that I have that completed, I'm going to go ahead and add the zipper tab. My zipper tab is just a piece of scrap from the rest of this panel, and I just did a 4-way fold on it. I'm going to take this zipper tab and slip the end of the zipper onto there. I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and sew 1/8 of an inch from that folded edge. So make sure the zipper is all the way against the back of your zipper tab, back stitch, and then just go all the way down. Trim off your extra if you have any. My zipper is now ready to be installed, so after I have the interfacing on the front and the back piece, I can go ahead and put this pouch together and just be thankful that we put forth the effort to come into our sewing room and just to create something beautiful with materials we purchase, with a pattern we can get for free, and just have a beautiful thing we can use. So now that we have the front attached to a fleece, we have the back. Look at that gorgeous material, it's so soft. We have it attached to a fleece as well, and then we have our 2 lining prints. Nothing on those, they're a cotton canvas, they're good to go. We're going to start working with it, adding everything all together. I'm going to start with 1 lining piece. For the front of the bag, I want the zipper to close to the left, so I'll have to place it right sides up, closing to the right on my lining, otherwise it would be backwards. I have the lining right sides up, the zipper right sides up, and I'm just going to sew just 1/8 of an inch on these 2 pieces. I'm making sure that my zipper is centered evenly on this top edge, and I'm just going to baste in place. Now that we have the zipper attached to the lining, let's go ahead and pull out our front exterior piece, and we're going to place it right sides together. You can clip this in place if you want, or you can just go slow and sew it. I'm going to sew with the full seam allowance that's given in the pattern. Even though we changed the pattern pieces and the measurements, we don't have to change any of the seam allowances. Now that you have those two pieces sewn together, go ahead and separate them so that they are wrong sides together. Take the time. I want to go ahead and move my zipper pull down to the end. Take the time to kind of flatten that seam. I'm going to choose to top stitch both of these pieces together from edge to edge. It's typically not what I've been doing lately, but this is a bigger bag. I want that lining to be tacked down securely, and I just don't want any issues with it. So I'm starting here at one edge, going through both the exterior and the lining, 1/8 of an inch away. I'm going to go slow. This panel's getting quite furry. I'm definitely going to have to de-lint it after I'm done. I'm getting ready to start top stitching on this minky. What I'm going to try to do is have it smoothed down so that it's a clear edge here. I don't want to top stitch so much in between the minky, like in the fur. It just doesn't look as good, but if I can do it at the top where it's all pushed down, it'll just look a little bit better. You won't see it as much is what I mean. It won't be like a really distinct line in between the fur pieces. There is how that top stitching looks. I'm not upset with that at all. I don't think it looks horribly bad, but you can see where you can definitely see the line of the fur. Some of it came up here. That's okay. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do those same steps to attach the back and the back exterior and the back lining to this top edge of the zipper. I will do those steps off camera just so you don't have to watch me do it again, but it's the exact same process. And then we'll come back to sew this back together and those finishing steps. So I have everything attached. Here's the exteriors, here's the linings. It's time to put everything together. Now on this bag, I'm going to round my corners. So I am not boxing the corners as the pattern originally said. Kathy did the same thing on hers when she made it with a panel, and I really like the way it looked. So I'm going to open my zipper halfway, mainly just to make for sure I don't hit the needle with my zipper pull. I'm going to take my exteriors and place them right sides together and do the same thing with the linings. I'm going to match my seams first. I was struggling getting a good cut on this minky, so I definitely want to match these centers up here and clip those because I have a feeling my bottom's going to be off or crooked or something like that because I kept feeling like it was crooked even though I was trying my best to get it straight. So once I have those clipped, then I can go ahead and clip the rest of the way. Just smooth everything down, add some clips. I'm going to sew all around the linings and the exteriors. I'm going to do this just like a traditional pouch, leave an opening in the lining so that I can turn the bag through, and then I will close up the lining whenever I'm done. On my corners, I'm going to use this corner template tool. This is from Sweetly Unique. I buy a lot of things from her. She makes her own templates, and I really just like to use her stuff. You can see it's going to be just a very small curve. If you want to make yours bigger, you can, but I'm just going to do a little curve. I have some overhang here. I'm not worried about that. But I'm just going to round these curves on all 4 sides. And so now that I have all the corners curved or marked, I'm going to start sewing this. I'm going to take a little bit of a bigger seam allowance on the lining, so just so it fits nicely inside the exterior. So I'm going to start by back stitching. And then I'm going to round that corner. Once you make sure everything looks good, you can trim off any extra bulk you have. I'm definitely going to trim off some around the curves there and get that all cleaned up just so I don't have extra minky everywhere. But be warned, this will make a mess whenever you're cutting it. It just sheds so quickly. Okay, I'm ready to turn this right sides out just to see if it looks as cute as I think it's going to look. Before I flatten everything out and lint roll this front, I'm going to go ahead and close up my lining. I do have everything poked out. Look how beautiful that zipper end looks. So the minky hides any bunching, and where I left the gap there, it looks really good. I like the way that looks. So now what I'll do is just pull this lining out and fold it in. So I usually get the corners out and then just put my fingers in there and pull, and it kind of goes exactly the way I want it to. I'm going to add a few clips there just because that's a pretty big opening. Okay, now that I have this under the needle, I'm just going to sew 1/8 of an inch away from this folded edge. So there is how that looks with the clothes. Tuck it in. I'll trim up my threads in a little bit. I'm going to take the time to push everything in, flatten it out. Lining looks great, not baggy at all. Let's go ahead and use my lint roller on this piece here so it's all cleaned up. You won't have to use the lint roller every time. Once you have all the loose pieces, it stays intact. So don't feel like, oh, you'll always be having to lint roll it. Nope. You know, I do because I have a dog, but that's different than the minky causing the problems. So here is my finished travel pouch. This pattern is the color block wristlet, which I enlarged to fit this gorgeous panel that I got from Jen's Fabric. I used minky on the side. The colors are just gorgeous. I love the way this turned out. This bag was made specifically for me. I'm definitely keeping it. I needed something to just kind of make me happy and just kind of bring back my excitement for sewing, and this is definitely it. So this project takes hardly any time. Takes longer to cut it for sure, but it gets me in the sewing room. It gets me creating. It brings a smile to my face. I'll get to use this, and every time I use it, I'll just be reminded of the beautiful things I can create in the sewing room and the joy I got sewing it. So while this Frugal Friday video is for a free pattern, and it's a very cute free pattern, but the techniques aren't the main thing I want you to take away from this pattern. What I want you to take away, just the reminder that the sewing room is a place for you to create beautiful things, to bring you joy, to find your happiness. But maybe if you aren't motivated today to sew, try to think of some small, easy, simple project. Pull out some of your favorite prints. Don't save the prints, use them up, and just sew something beautiful. Just have a great time with it. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble. Thank you for watching another video of mine. Thank you everyone for all the kind comments you always leave. They help me so much. And just thanks for being here. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. But I will leave the information in my description about how to get this free pattern from the K.dill Handmade website and how you can purchase the fabrics I used. This one is not currently available right now, but it will be later in the year. This was from an earlier round that she ran, but she does repeat the rounds twice a year. The panel Blitz day, I was talking about where you get the panels half off, that's only on the first day of the round, so it's every month on the 15th. You can grab any panels for 50% off. So for a bag panel, cotton canvas, it's only $3. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this bag, my materials, the pattern, anything, or if you have a pattern that you want me to sew up, definitely let me know. I'm really thankful to you guys for being patient, even though my Frugal Friday videos have been kind of simpler projects. My next one probably will be too, but in May, once I'm through working on taxes, we can start looking for more in-depth and more advanced free patterns that have a little more steps and some more techniques. Thanks so much, and I hope today in your sewing room you can grab some beautiful prints, a pattern that is just simple, easy, and quick, and just sew something that makes you happy, that makes you smile, that brings you joy. I wish you all joy today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.